way to get some height on your 2018 or newer JL Wrangler to improve its capability and the appearance. This 2-inch spacer lift kit will be a great option to consider. Now this kit will be tailored to the JL owner who wants an affordable way to gain some room underneath the Jeep for better clearance for light to moderate off-road adventures, fit a bigger wheel and tire inside that wheel well, and just create an overall more aggressive appearance to the Jeep. Now it's also a great option if you as the JL owner want a stepping stone into suspension. You don't want to commit to a full or more expensive kit if you're not sure your end goal with your build just yet, and you don't want to get too involved with your suspension if your factory components are still in good shape. I would like to mention though that I do recommend adding shock extensions or shocks to this kit to maximize your shock travel and maintain a good ride quality, and you can find multiple options for shock extensions as well as shocks right here on our site. As I mentioned, this simple spacer kit will do a great job at improving your Jeep's capability, allowing you to clear obstacles easier with confidence, that you're not going to come into contact with hazards that you may have potentially come in contact with no lift. Now it also will allow for a bigger tire up to 35 inches without any modifications, which also will improve the performance of your Jeep. Now while the performance aspect is great for those off-road treks, this will also be a great entry-level kit to improve the appearance of your Jeep compared to the stock stance, allowing for that more aggressive look with only a couple spacers. Now, as I said, you also will generally maintain your factory ride quality if you want to stick to the comfortable ride that you're used to, and adding in those shock extensions that I mentioned before will help with that immensely. Now these are made of a polyurethane construction, which is just a dense plastic material, and the benefit that this has is that it is going to be a little bit more forgiving than steel, adding a little bit to that comfort to the ride, and it will be completely resistant to any corrosion, unlike a metal option. Now these are not going to measure true to 2 inches in height. The front spacers will measure to roughly 2.5 inches and the rear to roughly 2.25. Now with the suspension geometry as well as the spring compression, in addition to whatever gear that you have loaded up in your Jeep or the armor that is on your Wrangler, it should net out to about that 2-inch height as it says in the name. Now again, because the kit only comes with the spacers, to improve the ride quality and the capability of your Jeep, I would again recommend those shock extensions for brackets or longer shocks to allow the proper shock travel and performance. And I would also recommend a brake line drop bracket to make sure that everything is accommodating for that additional height. Now this kit is going to be very affordable in the world of lift kits at about $200. Now this is a very bare bones kit, but it will give the Jeep overall height compared to leveling kits that will just raise the front, which is best for you if you want to improve all of your driving angles for better clearance off-road. Now it's also, again, going to be a great stepping stone if you don't want to get into any more technical components, or you just want to mix and match other suspension components without being locked into a full kit. Install here will be a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. It'll probably take you about 3 hours or so with the right tools and setup. However, at this point, we're gonna go over to our shop and check out a detailed breakdown on how you can get this onto your JL at home. So that is going to wrap it up for my review. Let's go ahead and jump into the install.
For this install, you would need a 3/8 impact, a 21, 18, 13, and 10 millimeter socket, a 3/8 extension, 18 millimeter wrench, clip removal tool, a ratchet strap, and also not shown be a lift and pull jacks. All right, today we're going to be installing a lift kit on our Wrangler. First, we're going to watch a quick video how to uninstall a stock system, then we'll come back here to install the new one.
So now we're going to move on to the front, and the eagle-eyed viewers out there probably noticed that our JL is missing a front bumper. Now all we did there is we took it off just so you can get a better idea of what we're doing from this angle. It makes things a little bit easier to see on video. You do not need to remove the bumper or splash guard even to get this installed. We just did it so you can see a little bit better. Now with that being said, we're basically going to do the same thing here. We got the Jeep up in the air, we got the wheels off, we have our axle tube supported with some pole jacks. And just like the rear, the first step we're going to do is loosen up some of those brake line brackets with a 10 millimeter socket. So now we can start to work on the big stuff. We're gonna start with our sway bar, which just like the rear is an 18, and then the lower shock mount, which is also an 18. Now to get to the lower portion of that sway bar end link, I have the extension and a U-joint and an 18mm socket. It is a little bit tough to get to. You can probably get it easier with a ratchet if you don't have this set up here. So now we're just gonna do the sway bar and lower shock mount for the other side. Next up is the track bar that's held on with a 21mm bolt. I have the same sort of setup I did for the sway bar end link, the extension, and the U-joint. That one's a little bit tough to get at. If you do have trouble with that, you can always hit the other side, but that's gonna require a wrench. There's one more thing for us to do. There's 2 Christmas tree clips on this wire here on the passenger side. We're just gonna use a trim panel removal tool to get those out of the way. Now we're just gonna lower the pole jacks and take the tension off the springs. I'm just trying to get as low as possible here. You can see me, I'm checking these wires, brake lines, this e-brake cable, and the brake lines over here. Make sure I don't go too low and damage them. Now we're just gonna work that spring out toward the lower control arm here behind the shock. Now we're just gonna work out that isolator.
So now that we have our factory spring out of the way, we are going to remove our top isolator. As you can see, it just fell down a little bit. Just gonna pull that off all the way. And then we're gonna get our new spacer in place. Now it is a tight fit over this, so we're gonna need to press it up in place. Once you find something that fits, you can use a block of wood or anything. We're gonna lower this down a little bit more. Get this started. Probably actually can get this by hand. It is just very tight. Just work it up. There we go. Now that that's in place, we can reinstall our spring. Get that over our lower isolator, make sure the bottom of the spring matches up in the bottom here, and we can raise our axle back up. Now that this spring is in, you can go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. We'll raise our axle up completely and start resecuring everything. So now that we have our axle jack back up, we got our shocks lined up here. So gonna get our bolt back in, put our nut on the back side. Then we'll grab our impacted 18mm swivel socket and 18mm wrench and tighten that down. While we're here, we can also reinstall our 10mm bolt back in our brake line bracket. Switch over to our 10mm socket, thread our bolt back in, and tighten that down. Then we're gonna come to the front of our axle and reinstall our bolt on the driver's side for our sway bar link. Line that up, get that through. We're gonna grab the same tools, impact with an 18mm swivel and 18mm wrench, tighten that down. Now you can go ahead and do the same thing on the other side for the shock and the 10mm bolt, and then we'll secure our sway bar link on the other side with our track bar. All right, now you can go to the other side of the axle and secure your shock and your 10mm bolt for your brake line bracket. And then we're gonna re-secure our sway bar link on the other side along with our track bar. For our sway bar link on our passenger side, it just mounts slightly different. We just have this locking nut that goes in through here. But slide our bolt through, get that threaded on. And grab our impact with extension and 18mm swivel and tighten that down. So now we have our track bar to put on. Now, as you can see, I do have a ratchet strap. I have it from the driver's side frame to the passenger side axle down here, just to help pull it over position. You can put wheels on the ground and just put weight back on it and it'll line back up. And this is how you can do it in the air. Just gonna get that on, give it a little tap. Get our locking nut on the back side. Got that started. So now we're gonna grab our impact, extension, and 21mm swivel socket and tighten that down. Last thing to do in the front here is we have our wiring harness with our 2 clips. We just gotta re-secure them. Our bottom one did break down here, but you would clip that back in. And then our top one right up here.
So we're gonna start our installation at the rear, and the first step, obviously, get your Jeep in the air, get all of the wheels off it, and get that axle tube supported. Now, like I said, this is going to be just as hard as removing a spring, so we're gonna have to drop that rear axle tube. As we're doing that, we don't want to stress these brake lines here, so the first step of the install is actually going to be to loosen up that bracket holding that on to make sure we don't stress those lines. It's held on with a 10mm bolt. And do the same thing for the other side. Just to keep those handy, I'm gonna thread them right back in. With the brake line brackets removed, we can further prepare to drop that axle tube. We're gonna remove the bottom of the shock mount and also the bottom of the sway bar end link on both sides. It's all held on with 18mm hardware. And with the shock out, that'll give us easy access to this side of the sway bar end link. Now we're going to drop our track bar from the axle side with a 21mm socket. So now we have all of the big stuff out of the way. There's one more thing we have to hit before we start lowering our axle here to get the springs out, and that is our e-brake cable bracket. It's way up in there. We got the extension on the impact gun here and a 13mm socket to drop that out. Now we're going to lower those pole jacks, release the tension on the springs, and pull them out.
Now we have our rear springs out. We're gonna take our top isolator mounts out. Now ours just fell out, but you might just have to pull it out from that mounting tab right there. Let's set that aside. We're gonna grab our spring and our new spacer. So you can get our spring into place first. Down at the bottom, make sure you line up the bottom of the spring with the proper tab. Now we got our spring in place. We're just gonna place our new spacer up here and then drop it down over our spring. And we can go ahead and get our other side spring installed with our spacer, and then we'll jack our axle up to keep it held up in place. So now that our springs are all in place, we're gonna line up all of our shocks and sway bar link mounting points, and we'll come back and tighten them all. Now we're gonna come to the side of our axle here. We're gonna secure our sway bar link first. Put our bolt through front nut on our backside. Grab our impact and 18mm swivel and our 18mm wrench and tighten those two down. And we can do the same thing for our shock. You need to jack up or loosen the rear just to get everything lined up. And the same thing, 18mm swivel and 18mm wrench. Now once you have this shock and sway bar secured, go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Next, we're coming to our e-brake cable bracket, and we're gonna reinstall it. Make sure the front locking tab goes in this front hole here, You may not be able to see anything because it's a little tight up here, and my hands are probably gonna block everything. But we'll get that up in place using our extension and 13mm swivel. We'll get that started. And we'll grab our impact and tighten that down. Now for our rear track bar, we're able to get that lined up with our pole jacks pretty well. We're gonna put our bolt back in, thread our locking nut on the back. Then we're gonna grab our impact and 21mm socket and tighten that down. Lastly, we just have our 10mm bolt for our brake line brackets on either side. We'll thread that back in, grab our impact and 10mm socket and tighten it down. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And that wraps up our install of our 2-inch spacer lift kit for a 2018 and newer Jeep Wrangler JL. And remember, for everything Wrangler, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.